From St. Petersburg.
And Brooklyn.
This is She's in Russia. I'm Lily.
And I'm Smith.
Okay. I was taking care of a friend. Everything's fine, but I was not able to be on this episode. So Smith interviewed our special guest herself. Who is who?
Right. So I interviewed this man named Bulat Khalilov, who is the co-founder of Red Recordings, which is an ethnographic recording label where they do field recordings of traditional music. Predominantly, so far, it's been in the Caucasus, but the intention, I think, is to expand to other parts of the world. And he co-founded Red with Timur Kodzokov. All right. Do you want to just start by introducing yourself and your organization?
Yes, it's simple. There is two of us, Timur Kodzokov and me, Bulat Khalilov, who is running the record label, ethnographic record label, or Red Recordings. The goal of Red Recording is to travel around the Caucasus, North Caucasus, South Caucasus, south of Russia and the world, to make a field recordings of traditional and local music, to make research on it and to release it in internet and on the physical formats like vinyls, cassettes, and so on.
Ah, cool.
We don't have ethnographic or anthropological background. We came from black metal, experimental music, avant-garde, and so on, as listeners, and then little by little became to ethnography. We call ourselves like DIY ethnographers.
We explain that transition a little bit. Like, you guys were playing in a band together, and then how did you become more interested in folk music?
I'm not musician. I'm a journalist. And Timur, he's playing on guitar, and now he's playing on the traditional instruments too. I met Timur on one very bad concert in Nalchik. He was playing with his friends terrible music like a classic rock. I hate classic rock, and he hated too. So our first meeting was like we was hate each other after first meeting. But then we start to discuss and understand that we both like experimental music and some like radical extreme metal. And we start to talk with his future wife. Now she's his wife. They was playing, not the band, but some project. They was trying to make like ambient or post-rock project on the Aleister Crowley poems. And I was like sort of producer. We didn't finish. I don't remember why. We didn't finish this project, but we start to think what we can do together. And with Timur, we find the Vincent Moon. It's a French filmmaker who travel around the world and make films about traditional and sacred music of the different cultures of the world. But he start not from anthropology, but from indie music. He was recording bands like Sigur Rós, Vampire Weekend, Beirut, and so on. And then he became to film traditional music.
So he was a sound engineer?
He was a filmmaker. No, he was recording sound too, but mostly it's like a visual poetry for him, like something between visual anthropology, experimental filmmaking, and sound art.
Okay.
And we invite him, the girl Elena Sakhnova from Voronezh, she invite him to Russia, and we invite him to Caucasus. We was like a producers, and I was traveling with Vincent Moon and around Russia for 2 months and a half.
Wow.
And he teach me how to record in the field. And Timur became the like sound engineer. We both working on the local radio.
Okay.
So after we finished this project, and it was very successful in Nalchik, where we are from, we start to think what we can. We understand that we didn't record all the music, or we didn't go deep enough into our own culture. So we start to think what we can do, what will our next step, and we decide to make our own project, and that's how Red Recordings start.
First question I have, you're both from Nalchik?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you explain where in the Caucasus that town is?
It's capital of Kabardino-Balkarian Republic. It's in the Russian part of of Caucasus. Mostly there is two ethnic groups. It's Kabardians. Kabardians it's a part of Circassian ethnic, and Balkarians. Balkarians are Turks, not Turks but Turks. Their language is Turkish.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Through this project with this film director, you started getting more interested in recording like local music and folk music. Was that something that was really present in your life as a kid?
When I was kid and when Timur was kid, we was hate folk music, because here, if you are not ethnographist or you are not old men who perform this music, in media, people, how to say, it's only pop music. It's like a quasi folk music or pseudo folk music that mass media reflects and propagate it. And we didn't face to real traditional music, and that's why we was kids fans of like extreme music. We was hate our own culture because we didn't met her.
I see.
There is one man who changed our point of view on this. In Adygea, it's a republic near Krasnodarsky Krai, near Sochi, where Kabardians, it's Eastern Circassians, and in Adygea there is Western Circassians. And there is Zamudin Guchev, man who organized Zhu. Zhu it's a traditional Circassian music band. And we found his recordings and we met him. And this was for us like we are listening underground music, but it's our own, like it's our own culture. The true traditional music was impact us very strong. And then we met Vincent, and it's changed. We understand that traditional music have more relations with, let's say, independent culture or avant-garde culture, not with the pop music.
Right. Is that because it's localized?
It's because it's, if we are talking about pop music in the bad way, pop music, it's always pay much attention on what listener will think, how he will like it, how to sell it. But traditional music, it's made not for listeners, firstly, but for like just it became natural. It's not for selling or something. So it's out of any formats, and it's like more, I can say, true, and it's more free in artistic term. So I think it's closer to, like, let's say, art than some commercial music.
That's interesting.
But
okay.
I'm not against commercial music. Some very good music can become commercial. For example, traditional music can become commercial too. But the principle that we have, we will happy if we will have a great commercial success. But we are not working for this. If we are trying just to like record and share the good music. If it will commercially successful, it will be great. If not, we don't care.
That makes sense. Okay, yeah, I guess kind of on that note then, I want to learn more about the music itself. One of the first questions I sent you is, what are some main, I mean, I know you focus primarily on Caucasian folk music, so what are some of the main themes of Caucasian music? And maybe if you know, how do these themes differ from those in other parts of Russia?
Firstly, I want to say, if we're talking about culture and if we're talking about it deeply, there is no Caucasians and there is no Caucasian music. There is a lot of different ethnic groups and nationalities which are, because they are neighbors, they have some connections and some similarities. But I don't think that we are the same, that there is some Caucasians.
That's an outside distinction.
Yes. It's like Europeans, but maybe between Europeans more similar things than in Caucasian. There is Circassian traditional music, there is Azeri traditional music, there is like Bulgarian traditional music, and they have some similarities, but they are not the same. So every music of every ethnic group have some specific sides, some specific topics. For example, music of Dagestanian people are more oriental. Music of Ossetians, Abkhazians, and Circassians are more, in terms of sound and construction, they are more European.
Okay.
And if you take the themes of songs and melodies in the Western Caucasus, for Abkhazians, Circassians, it's more about epic songs and songs about past, like about heroes of the past, about Russian-Caucasian War, and so on. If you take Chechen music, traditional music in Chechnya and in Ingushetia, it's more preserved in religion. So it's more about Sufi rituals.
Okay.
If you take Dagestan, there is some songs about Russian-Caucasian War, some love songs, and there is a big influence from Iran and from Azerbaijan.
Okay.
It's completely different from other parts of Russia, because in other parts of Russia there is other ethnic groups and nationalities.
Do the instruments vary across the Caucasus as well?
If you take Western Caucasus, Ossetians, Abkhazians, Circassians, Bulgarians, it's mostly like violins, fiddles, and there is a polyphonic singing. If you take...
what is polyphonic singing?
Polyphonic, it's many voices, like choirs. And in Dagestan, there is more solo singing. And there is more Eastern Oriental instruments like saz, like baglama. It's a Turkish and Azeri instruments.
It's stringed also?
Yeah, it's a strings. It's like something like Oriental guitar.
Oh, okay.
For Ossetian culture and for Chechen culture, balalaika is very famous too.
Do you think that we could listen to some music?
Okay, I can.
Maybe some examples of the ones you were talking about.
For example, there is a Circassian flute. It's play in very traditional way. It's like you take it not to your lips but to your teeth.
Okay, and is the flute made of wood or of metal?
In traditional, it was made from some grasses, but after it started to make from iron.
Okay.
Recording from our last release that we record on the Red Bull Music Moscow Festival.
And remind what region it comes from?
It's Adygea. It's Western Circassian culture.
kind of like sad or lonely sounding a little bit.
Yes, it's a melody, it's a ritual melody to find the body in the river, who the person who drowned.
Whoa, wait, so that's a common song that they'll play when this happens, or it's a specific event that happened?
It's when somebody is died, it's drowned into the river, and people can't find his body. The player was walking through the river and playing this melody, and by the legend, when he came to the place where the body is laying, accidentally he stopped the playing because some magic happened. And there is, I send you the other link. You will understand the sound of traditional violin and the polyphonic singing.
Also Circassian?
Yes.
حاور حب فتي حوج الوزر في عزتي أنا شغر قواحي عند شغر قواحي أجا حري شمع مزق في زخاحم حوج محقر رواجي حكم حاجة سيدو شو من سيحاج سيحاج سقز تيجم شو زقز سجحم مزد حينك وزر واتخوي قز سبيتم زدو سسقو غاشتي موچوغم سدبناي ياشس سبيتو مدرچوغم سدبناي ياشس سبيتو حاجو مزو مزشوي دشو مزش حبتي سدو چوغ بتخم تتحرق ساوي فشكج وجم ساسي شخجن دسقوا حجن Ayda ayda wadayda wadayda yera leyla wadayda wadayda oh no wadayda wadayda yera wadayda عدى حج وحجج حول شجن سبوش قصف وقف وقف وساس غنج مزبوط يوبل زمجوزي كرياشوي فتبوارس سيون سيكرياس مكيا ويقاز بشم غاكر لغا عدى حج وحجج زدو حجج.
Okay, so in this one, there's like a primary man that's singing, and then there's also the choir, right?
Yes, this is the traditional way of Circassian, and even in Ossetian culture, the structure are similar. And there is something really another. I will show you some music from Dagestan.
Okay.
This is Lezgi music. Lezgi is one of the ethnics of Dagestan.
Ah, all right. And what instrument is being played?
It's in Turkey they call it baglama. In Azerbaijan they call it saz. In Dagestan they call it chungur.
Şerike havayı kastar Dağıstan din dağlar ikayı ki hava serin, Ehel kısar havay derin, Baxaz çüngür şirin şirin, Dağıstan din dağlar hikaye. Şalbuzdağ yadağların qeyli, Harsa xaldin qalaz vaqvil, Andarman yaqaçı merğil, Dağıstan din dağlar hikaye. Baba dağya, dide vatan, Ambesitir aşık şirinan, Manil axva şemşir juvan, Dağıstan din dağlar hikaye. Dağıstan din xalqar hikaye.
I wanted to ask another question about the polyphonic singing. How is that organized? Who decides who's the lead singer? Is it more of a band than I might think, or they're practicing on a regular basis?
It depends. Sometimes it's naturally organized. For example, there was sometimes we was just eating, drinking. Accidentally, somebody start to sing, and the others start to make this choir. Other times, somebody say, "Hey guys, I want to sing this melody, this song, and make a choir for me." So there is now not like roles that you make this, but they the people organize themselves naturally. It's not academic music when there is a first voice, second voice. You need to make like this. There is a big space, big room for improvisation. That's why we are practicing field recording, not studio recording, because, friendly speaking, we are not recording only music, but firstly, audio situation where the music happens.
That makes sense. It seems for the most part that the folk music, at least that you record, is by men. Do women also sing folk music and play instruments?
It's a popular question. No, there is a lot of women who sings. Let me show you some women singing from Dagestan, but from Lak people. Lak, it's an ethnic group.
What instrument is that they're playing?
It's like just a drum.
Like a tambourine kind of, right? There's some metal in there.
Well, like this, yes. So we have some recordings when they was using as a drum just tables or something. Like it's not a musical instrument usually.
I see. So in the way that women versus men organize, like you kind of said that with the men, you'd be sitting around eating, drinking, and then it might occur naturally that people would want to sing. Is the setting similar for women, for when groups of women start singing, or is it different?
Usually when we record women, it's only women in the space. There is just a few recordings when we have like mixed women and men. So, and when they sing together, there is no like structure. I think that tradition and traditional music, like I say, tradition of life and traditional music, they are related but not the same. In traditional music, there is more freedom than in everyday tradition. So there is some like some genres or styles that sings only women or only men, for example. And there is, if we're talking about religious music, usually it's not mixed. It's only women or only men. They are not like cross. But when it's not religious music, there is no something like you can't do it, you can't do this. It doesn't work like this. It's all happens very spontaneous.
Right. So are the themes of the songs that the women sing similar to the male, or are they completely different?
It depends on what culture and what region we are talking about. For example, in Circassian culture, about women singing, we record mostly religious music. But when we record ancient epic sagas, it's mostly men. But in old archives, we can find the women who sing the epic songs too. And there is some like Soviet songs, that women songs or men songs, but there is no strong separation.
So Soviet songs have been adopted like as folk music even to today, you think?
Yes, because Soviet Ministry of Culture and Soviet ideology was trying to like build new identity. So they make their own aesthetic, and there was a program like to make a Soviet identity. So they made some on the traditional basis. They built some, you can say, pseudo folk or near folk music with the Soviet pop standards. And now, after so many years of being in this culture area, some or most of people identified these Soviet songs as a traditional.
Whoa, okay, so when these songs were originally made by the state, were they made in the tradition of the like location they were for, or were they just for the entire USSR and then they were adopted and changed?
I think it originally was made for change. Everything it has the same basis, because you always, when you record when we record music, we always listen, this must be Soviet song, because it sounds very Soviet. But sometimes the performers don't see this that this is a Soviet song. They don't have a reflection on it. So I think it was like very Soviet, but it was in the traditional culture, these songs, and they became like demi-traditional, demi-Soviet.
I see. Do you have any examples of that?
Yes, I can send you.
And there's these traditional, or these like Soviet songs, are they sung in Russian or they're sung in the local language?
Some songs in Russian, but mostly it's in local language. Now I will show you an Abkhazian Soviet song.
And what's the like general theme of it? Like, what are they singing about?
Most of Soviet songs are love songs. It's a song about guy whose name Azamat. There is some songs, the patriotic songs about how our land or our village or something like this are beautiful. In Soviet time, there was some anti-Soviet songs too. Especially it's popular in ethnic groups who was departed from in the 20th century, into Siberia and in Kazakhstan.
Okay. And are those songs still sung? Like, did they persist?
Yes, they I can't say they are very popular because, it's like a trauma and people don't sing it too many times. But we record some of them with some, for example, Chechen song when the old woman damned Stalin and wish him all the curses and bad in this world and something like this. And some Kalmykian songs, Kalmyks was the part too. There is some songs about this too.
So it's explicit, like they say Stalin's name and explicitly like renounce him. Interesting. Do you have any of those recordings?
Okay.
Talin tadahar duhi yo del villa hoyashkicho isini bay bolu herbo bay tahdiz dolu herdo way day bahnatu way day maka saday chi sahilo herdo way day mahnatu way day maka saday chi sahilo herdo Sunum deri muhtara Wayna bala busu ati Dohu huli bala dohu Sunum deri muhtara Way bali geldi susila Wayna bala busu susila Pana mahka weitadu kush. Weitai mahka weitadu kush. Pana mahka weitadu kush. Weitai mahka weitadu kush. Hatigbanos letis mayu vezinderi. Hötina was to dela. Hötina was hara. Kiaguswaha yorhoriara. Hötina was hara. Kiaguswaha yorhoriara. Halatanos letis madu vezindeli. Hötina was to dela. Hötina was hara. Buhdidur der ilatanas.
I'm wondering, I guess in my mind, I sort of thought that folk music was like all the songs were very ancient and came from long ago, but it seems like these songs are actually fairly recent.
It's a stereotype that we was come to traditional music with this stereotype that we will record only ancient music. For example, in very, very beginning, we was thinking we will not record Christian or Islamic songs, only the traditional music, it's only pagan music, because then we will start to work and understand that it doesn't work like this. There is no purity. You can't find any purity. So the Islam and Christianity and the other culture impact the traditions very strong, and it's not bad. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just how it works. And then we was thinking, we will record only traditional music and pre-Soviet music. Soviet Union destroys our culture, so we will ignore Soviet period. And then we record this Abkhazian ensemble that was really beautiful. It was amazing. And we was thinking, what we will do with our conception? And we understand that now our conception is very open-minded. We are not preserving the heritage of ancient ancestors. No, we are recording, and we are not recording old music. It's not, as we understand, it's not the old music. It's traditional. It's when we say old, it's like something that only for old men. No, it's not like this. We think it's sounds and about its conception of traditional music. It's very modern. It's very contemporary. It's very free. So it reflects every periods of life, of history, of different ethnic societies. So the strongest characteristic of traditional music is vitality, not the ancientness, but there is something ancient. The principles, they are very ancient, but the themes, the melodies, they may be not from very far.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess, I sent you this question. In my head, I kind of assumed, folk music is like a dying medium, having heard what you just said. Now, do you think is that a true thing? Like globally, maybe not just in the Caucasus, but globally, is folk music a dying medium, or it just adapts in a different way?
If we will talk about folklore, not folk music, but folklore, like tales, like let's say, mythological way of understanding of life, mythological way of thinking. It's vital. Maybe you and me have mythological way of thinking, but we have new myths, new archetypes, and so on. If we will talk about folk music, or I like the traditional, I don't like the term of folk music. What means folk?
Okay.
Folk, it means music of people, yeah? And who is the people? It's all very colonial, when aristocracy or some, for example, European comes to Africa and records some like ancient tribes or aristocrats in Europe researching the music of simple people. It's not natural, it's very ideological. So I'm not sure about term of folk, but traditional and local, but every term is bad. But we are people, we use the words. Words are imperfect, but we don't have any other instruments, so we say traditional. And in some regions, some ethnics, traditional music is dying. Maybe somewhere is dead.
Because of commercial music or other reasons?
Because of, for example, of commercial music, of government. If people have a very low level of life, they trying to survive. Usually they don't care about the heritage, about the music. So, but sometimes very low level of life make you like influence to make music. It depends, but in some parts of the world, because of cultural politic, because of language politic, of government, because of business and commercial music and many other elements, it's dying or maybe dead. But even if tradition is dead, you always can find the old archives and revital this music. Like it's not the tomb, it's not a cemetery, and it's not a museum. It's always a process. And the thing we are trying to make in the Ared recordings is to support traditional musicians and music because we like this music.
What do you think happens? Like, what you're doing is you're recording something that's maybe like very localized or very specific to a given culture or community or even maybe town, and you're recording it and you're putting it on the internet for anybody to consume. Do you think something happens in that process? Like, do you think that the perception of the music by an outsider does something to the music itself, or do you think it's a purely positive?
No, it's not only positive. There is a negative moments too, and maybe by some steps, Ared recordings is destroying traditional music, maybe, because traditional music is anonymous. It's work like this. Nobody knows. Nobody trying to remind who is the author of traditional melody or lyrics, and it's become like folk, like the traditional. And when we record something and put it in the internet, we put a lot of details, when it was recorded, where, in which situation, and who made this song or who is singing. And we like putting in the internet some etalons, and it's not good because traditional music are free, and when we put some etalons, the new generation of performers maybe will sing in the way we record, and it's not good. Maybe we record something not very traditional, and some new performers will copy our mistakes. And some, I don't like the exotization, but when for example, we made a lot of concerts and DJ sets and so on in Moscow, in St. Petersburg. When we make like this, for sure, most of our listeners in Moscow don't understand the background, the lyrics and so on, and they exotize these songs. They listen, it's like, wow, cool, it's so weird. I find some weird sounds, it's cool. And maybe it's not good, but what to do? To let this music die or what? So there is some negative moments in our or not moments, but results in our activities. But I hope the positive things are stronger. When some outsiders pay attention on some local music, local musicians start to believe that their music are good. And when, because of outsiders, we became able to pay the musicians, they start to practice more in music because they understand, wow, somebody pays me for this music. I need to remind more songs. Because of regular job, this performer wasn't able to perform, and he started to forget a lot of songs. But we came, we record him, we take him to some festival, for example, for experimental music festivals with some DJs, with some electronic music, and he see a lot of young guy from outside who listen to him, and after this show, organizers pay him, and he understand that this maybe there is some exotization, not maybe, for sure there is some bad exotization, but with exotization there is some respect to this music, so it's a positive moment.
Yeah. Do you think that I'm trying to think about if kind of this desire to preserve things, like as you're doing with the recordings, or like maybe how museums work, or different ways that humans preserve things. Do you think that's escalated with the internet, that the desire to preserve has grown stronger, or just the mode in which we preserve things has changed?
I think maybe I didn't understand your question till the end. You will tell me after I will answer. I think the internet and the modern things and methods, this is the best way to preserve the, let's say, old or authentic things. Only because of internet we found our traditional culture. Only because of modern tools we have way to record it in the original way. Not like we have recorders and internet spaces when we put the original sound without any cutting, For example, when in Soviet time the ethnographers was recorded, they have lack of tape. They was thinking what to record, what to not to record. When they was released on the vinyl or cassettes, they have limited which songs we will take to record. For example, there is some epic songs, for example, 20-minute song or 40-minute song, and you can't release it in all time on the vinyl or on the radio or on the tape. And today, because of internet, we can do whatever we want. We can respect the authentic forms of performing music, and we can put it in the internet in the original format. So I think the only thing that will save this music is the internet mostly.
Okay, yes, I think you understood my question. Thank you. I don't really have any other questions for you. If there is any other music that you had in mind that you wanted to play, we can do that now.
Okay, let me think. Something very, very different. Let me show you some Chechen zikr. It's a Sufi ritual. It sounds very powerful.
Okay, and what is the ritual for?
It's like for different things. The Sufis in Chechnya make it for the funerals, for birthdays, for some important things, for some important celebrations.
I really like that. It's maybe like meditative or something, or lulling.
It's a meditating. Yeah, they fall into trance while they sing in it.
I think that we've covered everything. This was really nice. This is the first like music interview thing we've done, and it's really nice to listen to things.
Thank you. It was interesting for me too.
Oh, good.
I was talking on a lot of things during this project, but like it's interesting when you're not just thinking but talking about this thing with somebody. The new ideas became to your mind.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Bulat.
Thank you too. Bye.
Nice talking to you.
See
Bye.
you soon. Bye.
That's the episode. Thanks for listening. Please be sure to check out Red Recordings on Bandcamp. The link is in the episode description. As always, follow us on Twitter and Telegram at She's in Russia. Sign up for our monthly image-based newsletter at she'sinrussia.com. Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/she'sinrussia. And we'll see you next week with Svetaeva.
Yay, poetry.
Right?
Doğru.